It's time for another episode of RFA Insider, and it's backwards day.
Amy, and Eugene was that Insider RFA on today, and
Amy, why are you talking like that?
you said it was backwards day.
Yeah, but I meant because of our slight format change. I didn't mean that we need to speak our sentences backwards.
Oh, okay. Well, then today's episode of RFA Insider begins with how it's made, and we're interviewing Mem Satitpanyapan from RFA's sister news outlet BenarNews about the mysterious deaths of 6 Vietnamese and Vietnamese Americans in a hotel in Bangkok, Thailand.
And then on the rundown, we have 2 stories as usual, one from Vietnam and one from China.
All of that and more coming up next. Tune stay.
Bruh.
어떻게 만들었지?
他们录片打嘞，
怎么做的? How it's made.
At about 5:30 p.m. on July 16th, police in Thailand found 6 foreign nationals, 4 of whom were Vietnamese and 2 who were Vietnamese Americans, dead in their hotel room at the Grand Hyatt Erawan Hotel in Bangkok. This shocking tragedy has made headlines worldwide, with people intrigued about the hows and the whys about this case.
And here to talk about this mystery with us is Mem Satitpanyapan, who is the senior Thai content manager at BenarNews.
BenarNews is, of course, RFA's sister news organization, which provides clear and accurate news on security, politics, and human rights on the local and regional level for the people of the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Bangladesh. So, welcome to the podcast, Mem.
Welcome.
Hello.
You're our first BenarNews guest.
Yes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I just want to say thank you for agreeing to do this today because she's actually our emergency backup guest.
Shouldn't feel good about that. You're the last minute guest.
Well, we had somebody else lined up for today, but she called in sick. So thank you for saving us.
Our pinch hitter.
really,
welcome.
really appreciate it.
Very honored.
Okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so first, could you set the scene for us, Mem? This case took place in the Grand Hyatt Hotel in the Erawan area of Bangkok. So what is this area like, and what kinds of people would be staying here?
This area would be sort of a business area.
Okay.
And it's right next to, if you remember, Erawan Shrine, where actually the bombing case happening like in 2015. And this is the very in the heart of Bangkok, actually.
Okay.
This intersection is so close to the hotel and is wherever the protests would happen, anything, critical about politics critical would happen around here.
Okay, so if we were to compare it to New York, would this be like Wall Street, that kind of area maybe?
It's sort of Wall Street plus Times Square.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Because it's always like the biggest shopping area as well.
Huh.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like politics and business and
Exactly.
commercial.
Exactly. And this hotel is actually a 5-star hotel.
Oh,
I was
wow.
so shocked to hear this news.
Okay,
How-
so go ahead.
Could you guess how much would a room cost?
It's about maybe 200 and up
Okay.
for like a low season.
I
So
mean, that's
quite
kind of-
expensive for
It's not cheap.
Thailand.
Yeah,
It's- yeah.
I was going to say that would
Not
sound
by U.S. standards.
quite
I would say.
affordable by U.S. standards, but we're talking about Thailand, so of course $200 is going to be a lot.
But that's
of
for
money.
low season.
The low season. Okay.
For high season, it could be $400 or $500
Wow.
a night.
That's
right? Yeah.
And okay, so can you give us a timeline of events? So when were these people discovered? We said it was 5:30 on July 16th.
Right. But when they found the 6 bodies, that was in the evening, right?
Yeah.
But the police say that they died. They actually were dead 24 hours before that.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so they just found them. They were all dead inside the room. I think I read something about there was some food that they had ordered that was uneaten.
The thing is, there's 6 of them, right?
Yeah.
And they actually checked in separately. And there are 4 or 5 separate rooms on the 7th floor. And there are a huge room, like a suite room. It's called Pool Villa on the 5th floor. This is where everyone's actually gathered
Okay.
on the day that it has the incident.
I see.
And they all died in there.
How tragic.
That's on the 5th floor of the hotel. that
Okay.
room.
So what we're hearing is that the police determined that they were poisoned, right? Have they identified who did it?
The police said yesterday that it was cyanide. There's poison.
Cyanide poison.
Cyanide poison, yeah. And the police believe that one of those 6 actually organized the whole thing.
But they haven't identified which of the 6th, right? Or they have now.
They say one of them, which is a woman.
Okay.
There are 3 women. And
3 women and
3
3
men.
men.
Yeah, one
But-
of those.
Okay, but did they say exactly which of the 3, or have they not said that yet?
They didn't say that. Because
Okay.
of course, they didn't actually know exactly
Right.
who
That's
did,
true.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So did they say anything about the motive? Because I guess the theory would be that some people would say, well, then there must have been a reason that this person maybe wanted to kill everybody. So do we know anything about that?
There's actually the number 7, which is one of the relatives of these 6.
Number 7.
Yeah, actually, it's a relative, and she said the sister of one of these. She said these people have business conflict, business death.
Okay. And then when you say number 7,
Dispute.
you mean that there was somebody else
They were
who
there,
also checked into the
but
hotel with
she
them?
didn't check in at the hotel. I
Oh.
think she flew back July 10th before
Okay.
that, but I think they talked to her. Because someone will have to identify these bodies, right? But who they are. And
I
stuff
see.
like
I
that.
see. So
And it makes sense too, because naturally she would be the most the
The
Right.
suspect,
closest, I
right?
would say.
or possibly
right,
even
right,
a suspect, right?
Right, right. But since she left first,
So
that
she was not
happened.
there for this.
she was not there.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So they had some kind of business dealings, and maybe that's what's going. But we're not totally sure.
Maybe. And police believe that this is personal conflict. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So not only BenarNews, but like I've seen New York Times reports on it, BBC reports, CNN.
Everybody,
Yes.
yes.
It's really like a viral news story right now.
Yeah, it's hard to say that. Is it international impact? Of course. 6
But-
people die in the same room on the same day in one of the luxurious hotels.
Hmm.
You know?
So you think the mystery of it is what makes it so
Yeah, everything.
Incredible.
Even I was so shocked. Like, oh my God.
But I guess one aspect about it is that they actually traveled to Thailand. The person who carried out this horrendous, I guess,
murder,
tragedy.
suicide.
Yeah, they traveled to Thailand to do this, right? Is there a history of people doing that specifically in Thailand?
You know what? I don't know. This is not common, right?
Yeah.
Or at least it's not really international impact like this. I have no idea. And actually, I talked to someone. They said that the police actually even mentioned that this group's supposed to go to Japan, but because they didn't get visa to go, so they actually decided to do all this in Thailand. I don't know. This is beyond my knowledge.
So you did mention visas. So and I guess the bodies were discovered just one day after Thailand expanded its visa-free entry scheme, right?
In 93 countries.
So-
yes. Yeah.
Okay, so they relaxed visa regulations. So does that have anything to do with how this kind of?
I really don't think so.
So we don't hear about cyanide poisoning that much in the United States. Would you say murders using cyanide are more common in Thailand?
Actually, no. There are
No.
2 big cases that I heard. This one is included, right? But a year ago, there's a woman just killed 14 people with cyanide. It's all
14?
money related. Yeah.
So
She just poisoned one after one after one.
oh, not at the same time.
Not at the same time. Yeah, that would be like, ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, not at the same time. It's all related to her borrowing money from them, and she
So
didn't
same
wanna
motive
return money.
as well.
It's money related.
Similar motive, perhaps.
Yeah, but that's the first time. It was like we were shocked too. Wow, cyanide. How could she order cyanide? That's the thing, right?
That
Online.
was my follow-up question because there have been other cases, right, in Southeast Asia where you hear about cyanide poisonings in like coffee or something.
Exactly. And
But-
this is the second one that I heard about Thailand. So it's not really common, I think.
Okay,
But
interesting.
after this news, it could be common. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I hope not.
More
know, I
common
hope
than
not.
believed.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Now, so when I was trying to think of questions to ask you, I actually was looking at the comments of the Bangkok Post, and in there's lots of people who are severely critical of the Prime Minister of Thailand, whose name is
Setha Thavisin.
thank you,
Yeah.
for visiting the scene and then saying that the incident was unexpected, but it should not have any effective or have any negative impact on the tourism. And the commenters, they were really incensed, and they're saying, why is he getting involved at all? That he has something called main character syndrome. And then after that, they said that why is he talking about tourism in light of such tragedy? Is there some kind of policy that?
Okay, I would tie this up with after COVID, right?
Yeah.
It hits our country because tourism is one of the most important incomes of the country.
Okay.
So anything that's happening, like something like this, is actually will totally destroy the image of Thailand.
Do you think so? Even though it was by foreigners?
Right. And even though it's personal conflict, whatever,
Right.
like the police believe. But you know what? personally, I think it would in the beginning, but later people will forget about this.
Right.
Because it's happening in one hotel. I mean, it's like if they organize that, this group, if they organize this, it shouldn't damage our image of the tourism in the long run. In the long run.
But I guess what I'm asking is, why were they so critical of the Prime Minister for even bringing tourism up? I mean, and would you say that he has, quote unquote, main character syndrome? Does he always try to interject himself into things where, I mean, this is clearly the realm of the police, but he's visiting the site, and then while he's visiting, he's talking about tourism.
He's talking about that.
Yeah.
I guess it's normal as a leader, right? When things happen like this, it's already happened. It's passive, right?
Right.
So what are we looking for? Like, is our tourism will be damaged and, affected by this? So I think that's normal.
And then another commenter on the Bangkok Post, he says, in the last week, Thailand has had 6 Vietnamese dead under unknown circumstances, a murdered Chinese woman, an Iranian and his Thai wife murdered, a Ukrainian woman raped, 2 Chinese kidnapped and extorted by the police, a foreign gang arrested after a brutal robbery, and scammers in police uniforms, real or fake, is unknown at this time. And the government's arrival, the predictions are being adjusted downward after the government's arrival predictions are being adjusted downward after the Chinese are not coming in the numbers expected and dreamed of. Thailand is headed for a world of economic hurt. So all of those things I mentioned, those are actual events that happened in Thailand in the past week?
You know what? I don't know everything you mentioned.
Okay,
so.
but you've heard of some of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming that this person must be compiling a list of tragedies that have happened.
And in the past years, it's very intensive, like just the past 6 months.
My thought is that, like, similar in America, we could also compile a list of like the horrible things that have happened over a week, right?
Definitely.
But we aren't
even in this city.
Yes, but we aren't necessarily inclined to. So does this comment kind of speak to locals' attitudes or like pessimism about the economy?
Yes.
Or like maybe safety?
I don't understand.
I guess the comment is saying that it's going to affect people's perceptions about tourism, and I guess that the tourism is really relying on people visiting from China, especially because they have huge numbers.
Yes.
So I guess then maybe they're trying to dampen the impact on Chinese travelers?
Yes. A lot of Chinese actually came to Thailand from the free visa too, right? But a lot of them actually are in Thailand a long time ago. We call them gray Chinese. It's like gray cases, like it's not, they're doing gray business.
I see.
That's what Thai would say, gray business, which is corruption and giving under table to be able to do scammers. They're scamming stuff. They're based in Thailand. There are tons of Chinese in Thailand actually doing gray business, I would say. And it's in the news.
Interesting.
We report it. Yeah.
So the visa openings aren't necessarily directed at the Chinese tourists?
It's actually for a lot of countries, not just Chinese.
Is it similar to the visa-free waiver program? Is that what it is?
You can come in, get visa on arrival for 60 days.
Right. Okay. So that's a common thing that many countries share with each other.
Yeah.
I recall when I was a child, if you wanted to go to Korea or Japan, you would need a visa, but then they introduced the visa waiver program, which they give you a tourist visa as soon as you arrive, basically.
Right.
If you have a reciprocal agreement.
Right. That's to boost tourism.
Okay. So Thailand is now part of that, is what?
Yeah. Thailand is doing that now. Yeah.
So before everybody would need a visa?
A bunch of countries would need visa.
Okay, but they've relaxed it and opened more countries up for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I see.
economy.
So then that should help tourism, but it's not.
It's not as many because a lot of news like this too.
Yeah, as you said though, that this is one event, and probably it's not going to affect tourism that much.
That's personally, I would say, in the long run, it wouldn't.
Okay.
But you did mention the Erawan temple bombing case as well.
Yeah, that was 2015. Yeah.
But I think something like that would be more scary. Like if you're having, terrorism, rather than this one personal conflict between a group of people.
Right.
Okay.
I guess out of curiosity, how much reporting or like collaborative reporting is going on between Vietnam and Thailand? Like, are you hearing a lot about information about the victims and things from the Vietnam
actually,
side?
we just following up with the police, with the government.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just
mostly.
like the press conferences and
Something,
things?
yeah, right. Because you're not allowed to go in. As soon as the police, went into the hotel, they're guarding people out. You cannot go in. I mean, you can't.
Well, thank you very much for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you.
You really saved our life. So we would be happy to have somebody in BenarNews when we have better planning. But you did a wonderful job, and we'd like to have you.
Thank you so
Again,
much.
sometime.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. You're listening to the RFA Insider podcast, made by two real-life staffers at Radio Free Asia.
If you'd like to send us feedback, there are many ways you can do this.
You can send us an email at insider@rfa.org.
You can comment on our webpage at rfa.org/English/insider. Just click on the episode you're listening to and write your comment below.
Or you can send us a tweet at RFA Insider or visit us in person.
No, don't visit us in person.
Right, don't visit us in person. But anyway, we really want to hear from you
So tune in every other Friday and we'll take you behind the scenes.
and tell you what the news really means here at RFA Insider. All right. So this format switch is a bit jarring. I'm so used to starting the show off with the banter, but I guess we're doing things a little bit different now.
Yeah, but actually we can just let people in on our secret, which is that we've been recording out of sequence this whole time. So this new format reflects the actual order in which we're recording.
That's true, but because of an emergency today, we're actually recording out of sequence again, but that's all right.
It's too meta.
So sorry for ruining the illusion there, but anyway, to ruin the illusion further, I had written notes in this banter segment to reflect some comments on the beginning that would have been about the dog days of summer. But then we decided on the format change, and so I changed the intro to be about backwards day. So we have to improvise because I did not rewrite this part. So Gee, Amy, the weather is hot. We must be in the dog days of summer.
The dog days of summer? I wonder where that expression comes from.
Well, I looked up the answer, Amy. Would you like to make a guess?
Okay, nice save. Okay, my actual guess, is it because dogs have like a coat of fur, so they run hotter than humans?
That's a very good guess, and that's kind of related to what I originally thought this was about. But actually, it turns out this expression has been used since Roman times, and it is related to the star Sirius, which is a star in the constellation Canis Major, which is shaped like a dog.
Okay.
And during the dog days of summer, it refers to when Sirius appears in the sky just before the sunrise. So this tends to happen in late July. And the Romans called this period Dies Canicularis, which means the days of the dog in Latin.
Oh,
And so that's just survived to the modern times.
that's so
And-
much more poetic than our guesses.
Right. My original guess was that, because when it's really hot, the dogs, they tend to pant a lot and have their tongues out. And I guess they look really hot. And so when you see dogs doing that, oh, it must be a really hot day. But actually has to do with astrology, which that actually does tie into later on in the rundown when we were talking about
Yes, true. Space.
space. So yes.
Okay, well, thank you for that fact, Eugene. I'm sure it will enrich everyone's lives who've just heard it.
You're welcome. And speaking of listeners, I would like to take the time to tell anyone listening to this to please remember to like and subscribe and follow our podcast so that you automatically get updates whenever we release a new episode.
Yes, please take a moment to do that. It would really help us grow our platform, so very much appreciated.
But now it's time to start the show, not start the show, to
Yes, this is not the beginning, Eugene.
right. So now it's time to halfway the show with
Podcast Free Asia.
So today on Podcast Free Asia, we're going to talk about this format change. We're experimenting with ways to reach new audiences. And given that we have been titling each episode according to what's going on in the How It's Made segment, it might be a better idea to lead off with that, giving the new listeners what attracted them to the episode right away, rather than listening to us banter back and forth when they don't even know us yet.
Yeah, but don't worry, we're not getting rid of the banter completely. It just comes later on in the episode.
Right. So for now, though, our segments will remain the same, just in a different order. But of course, this is always subject to change.
Okay, well, next up, we're going to plug a new podcast called RFA Stories that's dropping this weekend. And the first episode is part of a 5-part series by RFA's investigative team, and it's called Master of Deceit, about Wang Shujun, the Chinese-American democracy activist who was accused of spying for China.
This is a story about a spy, or maybe not a spy. But more than that, this is a story of political tussle between two superpowers fight for secret influence and dominance. And it's a story of the lives of people caught in between. We could hardly believe it when a man accused of being an agent for Chinese intelligence agreed to talk to us. For a year, RFA has been following the case of Wang Shujun. We delve into a world of high-stakes espionage, betrayals, and mysteries. Will the truth be revealed when he goes to court? Don't miss Master of Deceit podcast from RFA Stories.
Yes, longtime listeners to our podcast will remember that Tara and Jane from the investigative team were on RFA Insider in episode 6 to talk about this very subject. And this is being published concurrently with when his trial, which is coming up later this month. So I think they've panned it out so that episode 5 will come out right after the verdict. And so they don't even know, they haven't planned that episode out yet because they don't know if he's guilty or innocent.
Huh, interesting.
Right? It's pretty interesting, yeah. And it's really, really cool. And so I think we should, anyone who's listening to us, you would be I've heard the first episode actually, and it's really, really good.
Is this because the first episode of Master of Deceit features you, Eugene?
Yes, it does feature me. They needed somebody to play the English voice of Wang Shujun. So fans and stans of me, you can hear more of me over there because I did the voiceovers for all of his English language quotes.
So please check out RFA Stories wherever you go for podcasts.
All right, so the last order of business is that for promotional purposes, they want us to record an audio sting, which is a quick thing that we can put at the end of a 90-second clip to tell people where to come to listen to RFA Insider. So we're going to do that right now
on the air. Do we have to do it on air?
Well, I'll edit it out, except for I'm not going to actually edit it out.
Great, okay. The clip you just heard was part of the RFA Insider podcast.
Listen to the full episode wherever you get podcasts.
What does sounding all coolly mean?
Just you trying to sound cool.
So check it out.
All right, you want to do it with the roles reversed?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. The clip you just heard was part of the RFA Insider podcast.
Listen to the full episode wherever you get podcasts.
So check it out. All right, so that's all for Podcast Free Asia today. Stay tuned for The Rundown.
The Rundown.
All right, so Eugene, we have a little pop quiz for you right now. Do you remember what we talked about in the last episode?
Yes, North Korean soccer.
No. I mean, okay, yes, but the other thing.
Marriage in China.
The other thing.
Oh, right. You mean Thich Minh Tue, the Vietnamese guy who isn't officially a monk, but he lives an ascetic lifestyle according to the teachings of Buddha. So he's basically a monk.
Yes, correct.
And he's been buried by the government because they want to have a degree of control over religion.
Mm-hmm. Good job. All right. So Thich Minh Tue and his followers were detained by police in early June, and he resurfaced a week later near his family home and then disappeared again.
Oh.
So he told his family he'd been asked to move to another location for several days.
Right.
According to the authorities, the large crowd he was drawing was becoming a threat to public security. So he hasn't been seen since June. No one knows his whereabouts. His family is worried, and his followers are worried.
Oh, actually, he has resurfaced. So on July 12th, there's a video that they published where he's walking alongside his younger brother. And Tue's brother also confirmed to the BBC that he has resurfaced.
So he's been returned to his family?
Well, he's out, in the video, he's out collecting alms as he's been doing during his pilgrimage. I don't think that there are a lot of details right now, but just we know that he's resurfaced.
Okay, so in between that time period, this YouTube video appears on July 4th. So I'm going to show you a still from that video. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Okay, so it's a forest, and it looks like there's a rock, except for the rock looks like you're looking at a profile of, I guess you could say it looks kind of like a human head, and it looks very much like a shaven human head, so possibly looks kind of like Thich Minh Tue from the side, but not really.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a rock.
Okay, you're killing the quizzes today.
Okay. All right.
It's a video of a rock formation that the YouTubers thought looked like the back of Thich Minh Tue's head.
It kind of does, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a very round rock balancing on like another more
Right.
sloped rock.
And I guess the bottom rock is supposed to be his shoulders and body, and the top rock is his head.
Right.
Right.
So the two YouTubers who uploaded this video end up getting dragged in by the police, confess to their crime, and then
What crime?
each get
What crime?
fined $200 USD.
For what?
They also had to delete their video
So they posted the video on social media or just on YouTube?
on YouTube.
And then they said, hey, this rock looks like Thich Minh Tue. Was that?
Yeah, something along the lines
Oh, my
of,
goodness.
don't you think that looks like Thich Minh Tue?
Okay, so I mean, part of the story had been that people were posting about his pilgrimage on social media and they get punished for that, which that's terrible in itself. But if that's the rule, then why can you get punished for just talking about rocks? That I don't understand. Like,
So the official charge was that they violated, okay, long quote, regulations on administrative sanctions for violations in the fields of post-telecommunications, radio frequencies, information technology, and electronic transactions.
okay, do we happen to know which article of the Vietnamese penal code that is? Because often when we write stories about this, we have the exact article, and it usually ends up being Article 117 or Article 331, because those are used to silence dissent and target social media posters and bloggers. So that
Okay.
might be this, but
Right.
but I'm not entirely sure because I don't have the story in front of me.
I also did not see the article, but in the Vietnamese news reports that came out,
Yeah.
they basically boiled it down to posting, quote, untrue information online.
So it's untrue that the rock looks like Thich Minh Tue.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
But I guess
That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
yeah, to a lot of people inside Vietnam, it seems like they got in trouble for using their imaginations,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So there was one Vietnamese report that I read on the case with the help of our friend Google Translate. And the
Okay.
article came with an editor's note at the top that said, yes, in fact, this actually happened.
This actually,
It
so
may be unbelievable,
they
but yes.
fact-checked themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, that is unbelievable. It's a rock. Come on.
Which is not a great sign in, a country like Vietnam.
Right. That's scary, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. The point I think a lot of people agree with you is that the precedent this case sets is very worrying.
Yes, it is.
So the same report, there was a line that said, does that mean that we now lose the right to compare, liken, imagine, and visualize?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that's what happens in countries where the government has control over all media. This is very unfortunate. So I hope, they just had to pay the fine and that's it, or are they going to go to court about it?
I believe they got a fine, like a slap on the wrist, and the
Slap on the
fine
wrist.
was reduced because I guess they
Because the
didn't
police were
come
like,
from.
this is ridiculous. Like, why-
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah. Maybe if it was like, okay, I can pay the $200 fine, but how about if I just give you $50 and we forget all of that?
Right.
Like that's right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Thich Minh Tue might be a little too popular at this
That's
point.
true.
The
That's true.
screenshots of the video are still online and spreading.
I'm still waiting for the Vietnamese service after the story dies down to possibly get in contact with Thich Minh Tue because I want to hear from the guy himself. That would be really awesome.
I think that'd be super cool.
Yes, super cool. But let's get on to the next story in the rundown, which delves into the fun and exciting world of conspiracy theories.
Okay.
So what are your favorite conspiracy theories?
Oh, I enjoyed the one. Well, I took a class in high school called Our British Heritage.
Our British heritage?
Well, the idea was that no matter where you're from, the son
Oh.
of the
Interesting.
British Empire has cast
That
a
makes
shadow.
sense. That does make lots of sense. Okay, so
Yes.
but how is that a conspiracy theory?
So our teacher enjoyed a few conspiracy theories, but the
Oh.
one that was really fascinating was the last Tsar of Russia, his daughter, the princess. There was the idea that an orphan showed up in, I think, Virginia, claiming to be the princess, and a
Okay.
university professor takes her under his wing and really believes she is the lost princess. I guess her body was not found
So the
when
lost
the family was murdered.
is that like the Princess Anastasia story?
Yes.
Okay. So that's wow. You know what the sad thing though is that this is going to go off on a tangent, but when you talk about figures in European history, for example, like people's eyes glaze over and they're like, who are you talking about? Henry the Eighth, Henry the 13th, and you go into all these things. But if you were to talk about like the royal families on the fictitious land of Westeros in Game of Thrones, then you talk about Aegon II and everybody knows who that is. Or they'll be like, oh yeah, totally, Cersei Lannister, Queen Cersei Lannister, who was married to Robert Baratheon, who was of the House of Baratheon. You know, they'll go into detail about all of this, but they don't know actual history, you know? So I just think that's really funny. So yes, the Anastasia story is, of course, I believe the Bolsheviks got rid of the Russian monarchy, and then the last family of the Russian monarchy somehow escaped, and then there's a mystery over. I guess you're saying that if this conspiracy theory is true, then Anastasia, which was the crown princess or one of the princesses in the royal family, escaped to somewhere. And
well, I believe they were all killed, and it was confirmed, like their bodies were identified, but they never found Anastasia's.
I see.
I see.
So this is a conspiracy theory, and it's never been proven or disproven.
I believe it's firmly in the category of conspiracy.
Okay. All right.
But now, I think it was just cool. It was like a UVA professor, I believe. So it was super close to us.
So this is all coming from recall. So I apologize if anything that I said about the Russian monarchy is incorrect, because I'm not an expert on Russian monarchy. But anyway, some of my personal favorites are the Flat Earth Society, Ancient Aliens, and the 9/11 was an inside job.
So you went for the big ones.
Yeah, so the Flat Earth Flat Earth Society, I mean, are you familiar with the Flat Earth Society?
No.
Okay, it's a group of people who go online and say that they believe that the Earth is flat, and there's this massive conspiracy for the entire human population to say that the world is actually round. And they list several evidences. So according to the Flat Earth Society, we live on a flat disk.
Okay.
And gravity is not real. It's just that the disk is constantly accelerating at a force of 1g. Basically, I think that these people are trolls and they actually do believe that the world is round, but they just want to say things like, well, how do you know it's round? Can you prove it? Why do you think that's true? It's, because scientists have told us. Well, why do you believe the scientists? You know?
Just to be like contrarian.
Exactly. And then they try to say things like, seasons aren't actually real. They'll basically bend logic to say like, well, you're only saying that because that's what you've been taught, but you got to think outside the box. So it's interesting, but it's sad that people actually do believe this, but I think originally it started as people just trolling on the internet.
I do appreciate that they've called themselves a society rather than like espousing this as like, I guess they are espousing it as cold hard fact.
Well, some people actually do believe it, and that ties into like, they're like, well, if you look at the Bible, it says this, and so this is just confirmation of what the Bible says. Things like that. Another one is the Ancient Aliens theory. Are you familiar with this one?
No.
Okay, so this is the idea that all of the great structures in antiquity, like the pyramids and Stonehenge and some of the historical sites in Mesoamerica, were actually built by aliens, because if our understanding of human history is correct, building these things without modern technology would have been impossible. And even with modern technology that we have today, we wouldn't be able to replicate the sophistication that it took to build these things.
What?
So it must be that an advanced civilization with advanced technology, possibly aliens, well, in this case it's likely aliens, they came to Earth and then they built all these things and then they left for some reason.
I guess, would that have to hinge on the belief that we've become more sophisticated as time has passed? Yes,
because another explanation for all of these things is that in the past we did have sophisticated technology, and for some reason that's been lost.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting.
But that's also a different conspiracy theory. That's called the I forgot what the official name was, but it's saying that basically there's a period in antiquity where there was a really advanced civilization that was native to Earth, and then it was destroyed by a massive catastrophe, and then society rebuilt itself from scratch after the catastrophe. But we have no records of that previous civilization. So like the Atlantis theory, perhaps. But I mean, there are people who say there's proof of that, but it's not widely accepted. I guess I could say that, right?
Okay.
Finally, the 9/11 was an inside job theory is just entertaining to me, because the level of sophistication and cooperation for the cover-up would be just almost impossible. You need like tens of thousands of people to all remain quiet on it and not leak anything. And then it's like, even after all that, they were able to fool everyone in the world except for that one guy on the internet, right, who put the pieces together. So, I mean, it's silly. But today's conspiracy theory is about the 1969 moon landing.
Okay.
Okay.
Were you alive for this, Eugene?
No, no, I'm not that old, thanks.
Just wondering.
So there are a sizable number of people in the U.S. who believe that this was faked, and I'm not one of them. I could give you my answer for why I don't think so, but I think I'll defer to my favorite astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who says in one of my favorite videos, faking the moon landing would be much more difficult than actually going to the moon.
We all saw the rocket launch, okay? So there's hardware there. They're like office buildings of blueprints for the design of the Saturn V rocket. The hundreds of engineering hours that went behind this and the records of those designs. If you wanted to fake the moon landing, you would have to fake all of these documents. And it just seems to me it's way easier to just go to the moon. Has anyone considered that? Just go to the moon. That's easier than faking all of this. So, no, but yeah, we went to the moon.
The reason we're bringing up conspiracy theories is because this comes from the Asia Fact Check Lab, which we featured on episode 4.
Yes.
Yes, episode 4. And so in China, they recently had the successful launch on May 3rd of the Chang'e 6 unmanned space probe, which is going to the moon. And there are a new wave of rumors questioning the credibility of the U.S. Apollo manned lunar landings. Those have swept all over Chinese social media. So there are 5 separate pieces of evidence that the Asia Fact Check Lab found and debunked or said were valid. So the first one is that the architect of the Chang'e 6, his name is Pei Zhouyu, and he went on a special program on CCTV, and during the interview he says it had not found the Apollo basin. Right?
Okay. What is the Apollo basin?
The Apollo basin is a large crater on the far side of the moon, and that's named after the Apollo missions. And I think that the landing site of the Apollo missions were in that crater. Hey everyone, this is Eugene here. I actually need to fact check myself. No, the 1969 lunar landings did not take place in the Apollo crater, which is on the dark side of the moon. They landed in the Sea of Tranquility, which is on the light side. The Apollo crater was, however, named after the Apollo lunar missions. And in this case, the expert was talking about the potential landing spots for the Chang'e 6. So Chinese social media users said that his remark meant that the Apollo missions were faked because the Chang'e 6 hadn't found the remnants of U.S. spacecraft in the basin. Because like when they launched, they left something back behind.
Right.
But he was responding to the question about where the Chang'e 6 will land, saying that the unmanned spacecraft would not land in the Apollo basin, and they just took his comments out of context. So that's what happens when you take things out of context. You kind of don't get the full story. Number 2, the second piece of evidence. There's a social media post showing White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre with Chinese text saying that the U.S. and China had landed on 2 different moons.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, but this is a case of just taking a random photo and slapping text over it. So it was a photo of her talking during a press conference that had nothing to do with moon landings.
Okay.
So, debunked. All right, next. There's the case of some fake lunar rocks sent to the Netherlands. So in 2009, an ancient piece of petrified wood was on display in a museum in Amsterdam. And it was said it was a lunar rock. But they investigated it, the authorities investigated it and found it was not true that it was a lunar rock. It was actually this piece of wood. But just because that museum was wrong and because this display was wrong, that doesn't mean that the lunar landing was staged, especially considering there are thousands of lunar rocks that are undisputed to be authentic, and they've been sent as gifts worldwide to museums all over the world, including to China.
Wait, so to clarify, the U.S. sent the moon rocks all over?
Yes, because I think the U.S. is the only country that's been to the moon.
Gotcha.
So.
Right.
But in this case, I think that the AFCL said that, yes, this petrified piece of wood did, in fact, come from the U.S., and the museum in Amsterdam acquired it in 1988 and then put it on display as a moon rock, but it's just wood.
Okay. So not a great look, but not necessarily damning.
Right. So it's just there's a mistake somewhere along the line, but that doesn't disprove that the moon landings happened. Okay, number 4. On Weibo, it was spreading that the official records of the Apollo 11 mission had been lost, and therefore this is proof that the mission was staged. But, of course, the documentation for the whole mission is available on NASA's website, and you can search through all the logs and see all the videos and hear all the sounds. So people are just making this up. And number 5, this is my favorite one.
Okay.
There's an interview with Buzz Aldrin. Do you know who Buzz Aldrin is?
Yes.
Okay, who's he?
He was the man who walked on the moon?
Well, he was one of them, yes.
Yes,
He wasn't the
okay.
first. The first was
Lance Armstrong?
Lance Armstrong's a bicyclist. Neil Armstrong.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that's funny.
We're going to cut that out.
No, I'm not going to cut that. That's great. So yes, Buzz Aldrin was one of the Apollo 11 astronauts, and he clearly says in this interview, "We didn't go there."
Oh, very vague.
Yeah.
We didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
That was Buzz Aldrin saying, "We didn't go there," but this is an interview with a child, right?
Mm.
And he's making his answers simple. I mean, it's one of those shows where, like, hey, we have our child space enthusiast from this elementary school who wants to ask a question to this famous astronaut. And so she has a list of questions. It's a very long interview, actually. And she asks, in one of the questions, she asks him, why haven't we been to the moon since 1972?
Okay.
Right? And he's also talking to a child, so he's trying to not dumb down his answers, but say them more simply so that she can understand. And so if you listen to the full clip, you'll see that clearly this quote is taken out of context.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen. So in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going.
Again, this is the case of another quote taken out of context. And I got to ask these people who spread this stuff on social media, I mean, a lot of times it seems to be the case that maybe they think they can get away with it because, like, a lot of people that read their posts don't speak English, right?
Right, yeah. It seems to take advantage of the language barrier.
Right. And they say, like, oh, you can't find the records of the Apollo 11 mission because they were all lost. But, I mean, anyone who reads English can just go to NASA's website and clearly find it. So, I mean, what do they have to gain by doing this, really? Yeah,
I guess...
America was lying.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be the first to the moon. Is that what they're going for?
Yeah. Maybe it's just like the feature of conspiracy theories where it's like, I know something that you don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, I wonder if there's that nationalistic angle to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, that's all for the rundown today. And I think this will draw this episode of RFA Insider to a close. For Amy Lee, I'm Eugene Huang. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time